Hello everyone, this is Derek Bros with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today is Sunday, November 11th, 2018. This is a special broadcast titled Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, Cutting Room Floor, where we will discuss a couple of topics that did not make it into our most recent documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, and what this means and why you should be paying attention to it. First off, I want to say thank you to everybody who's supporting me via Patreon, because if you're a supporter on Patreon, even for as little as $1 a month, you are watching this video live right now before anyone else, and that is hopefully a nice reward for you guys. But I really want to say thank you to you, not only because of the funding, but because, you know, the money that people put into Patreon, it doesn't only get them access to videos like this for, you know, one day ahead of time. It's actually paying the editors for the documentaries we're doing. So when you go here and you see Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, our most recent documentary, that has been paid for by the great Patreon monthly supporters that we have here. And it's not a lot of money. It's less than $300 at this point. I would like to be bringing in more money, so if you would like to join for as little as $1 a month, that money is going straight to paying our editor. It's not going to my fancy lifestyle or anything like that. It is simply going to pay a good friend of mine who is a film student based in the UK, Jeremy Martin, who has continued to collaborate with me over the years, and this is now the 6th documentary that we're collaborating on, and it's the beginning of a whole new series of documentaries we're going to be getting into. And I just want to say thank you to Jeremy and thank you to everybody on Patreon. Now, if you haven't watched the documentary, please go ahead and pause this video right now and spend 25 minutes watching this documentary. You can, of course, scroll through here. What you're looking at right here is the transcript. It's the script that I wrote and that I recorded for this documentary. And each of these link to different documents. They link to reports. So everything is sourced in here. Nothing that is stated in this documentary is made up, is conjecture, is tabloid. It's all facts and things that should be explored further by the public who wants to really understand this case and wants to really understand what Jeffrey Epstein's about. So I advise you, please go ahead and pause this video right now if you have not seen the documentary, and then come back and watch this following video. Now, for those who have seen the Jeffrey Epstein documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein, or those who are at least familiar with the case, then some of this information is going to be refamiliarizing yourself with it. But I do think that I was able to capture probably the most succinct version of events of who Jeffrey Epstein is and what he's about, and who he's connected to, and all of these type of things. I do believe we were able to find a good point of connection between all these different data points. You know, when you really start diving into something like this, there's a lot of information to cover. Okay, who is this Jeffrey Epstein guy? What did he go to prison for? What's the timeline of events? Who are the different women involved? Who are they connected to? What are the people saying? Who are the people that allowed Epstein to get away with the deal? We're going to talk about that, right? But first, I want to get into this section on Trump. Now, when you watch the documentary, towards the end of the script here, we get into what this section that I called Birds of a Feather, where we start looking at Jeffrey Epstein's address book, which was leaked to the Daily Mail and to Gawker. And it showed all the different powerful people, musicians, politicians, celebrities, Hollywood people, media, all kinds of people that Epstein was connected to, and certain names in his address book were listed, with not just maybe one number, but they had 20, 30, 40 numbers from some of these people, and they seemed to interact with them fairly regularly. So as I was diving into this, I knew that we were going to come to the point where Trump's name, Trump's connections to Epstein would pop up. And I know there are plenty of you out there who are Trump supporters who don't like Epstein, and you want to try to just throw everything on his connection to the Clintons and Bill Clinton, and you're more than happy to say that. But then as soon as Trump's name is brought up, a lot of you shut down. And Jeremy, my editor and producer, was weary of this and basically said, this section here that you're looking at right about there, said that we should remove all of that, which is a good 2 or 3 minutes worth of information that we ended up putting in the documentary. But it was originally Jeremy's view that we should take it out. And his perspective, me including this stuff about Trump, although factual and true and without a doubt deserving of your time and attention, he was worried because of the polarization that exists in the United States that, hey, if you bring up Trump and you bring up his connection to Epstein, some people who might have listened beforehand are going to shut down, and you don't want that to happen, right? So he recommended that I take that stuff out and that this second video we're doing right now include that. After some back and forth, I decided to leave it in. I'm not an anti-Trump activist or journalist. I'm not even an anti-Epstein activist or journalist. I'm for the truth. And the truth of the matter is that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein are connected. And it's not just that, oh, okay, well, his name appeared in his little black book, address book. No, it's these men have been connected for years. They've said they're buddies. There's the famous quote from Trump on Epstein liking young girls and things like that. These connections are obvious and are apparent to anybody who knows the history of these two men, and that's why they can't be ignored. Now, what I focused on here is that Trump appeared in Epstein's little black book. And not only that, but Trump has been accused of raping a teenage girl named Katie Johnson, who was known as Jane Doe, and she filed 3 different lawsuits against Trump. She claimed that when she was 13, she first met Epstein and began participating in sex parties involving older men, where Epstein would fly her from Palm Beach County to his private island, to participate in sex parties and all kinds of things. And she would be home for dinner before her parents realized anything. And one of the times, she says that in 1994, she was taken to a party where Trump was present and where he sexually assaulted her. And there's a whole story on this where she ends up being brutally raped. She describes this very, clearly and disturbingly in her court documents, that she was brutally raped by Trump. And then afterwards, because this is the thing, is all the girls that Epstein recruited, not only was it for his own sick pleasure, but it absolutely seems to have been a honeypot operation where he would invite these young girls to these parties where there's going to be all sorts of powerful, well-connected people that Epstein's connected to. Maybe they get involved in some pedophilia. Maybe they get involved with just flirting or screwing around with a girl that might be a little too young for, the law and for most people's tastes. And Epstein would reportedly debrief the women afterwards. So when Katie Johnson allegedly slept with Trump or was raped by Trump, Epstein came and debriefed her. And what I mean by that is he would ask them, okay, so what did he say? What are they talking about? And it very much seems like this was a honeypot where Epstein was trying to gather information on the people that he was sending the young girls to fool around with. In this case, when Epstein realized that Trump had taken her virginity, Epstein apparently brutally beat her and raped her as well. And all of this can be seen in her court documents. She was represented by one attorney, several attorneys, but one of them was Lisa Bloom, who, when you look into her, you can see that she's quite well known in this industry. She wrote that the claims of Katie Johnson were consistent with prior sexual misconduct claims against Epstein and are backed up by an eyewitness and thus should be taken seriously. And that is quite unusual in a sexual assault case for there to actually be another witness present because, well, these things happen under the cover of dark, and there's not usually other people around to say, hey, I saw this happen. In this case, where they have multiple girls performing sex parties and sexual acts, there was other girls present, and at least one of them has said she was willing to testify in defense of Katie Johnson. And, of course, you guys know that shortly before Johnson came public, she ended up dropping the lawsuit against Trump, and the Daily Mail reported that an anonymous source, which, you can take that for whatever it's worth, claimed that Johnson had made the whole thing up. And in fact, in 2017, The Hill showed that text messages from the lawyer, Lisa Bloom, that was representing this woman, said that she attempted to reach out to TV networks and political action committees which were connected to Hillary Clinton during the presidential election to see if they would be interested to pay for this information related to Trump's alleged involvement. So that doesn't mean it's not true. But obviously, if they're reaching out to the Clintons, which is Trump's political enemy, and saying, hey, we got some dirt on Trump, do you want to buy it? Then some people might feel like there's a compromise there, or, that there could be other motivations, like money, mainly, beyond just holding Trump accountable. I will let you make of that what you will. All I know is that this woman claimed to have some detailed information about Trump, and then right before the election, she decides to drop it and says that she had been under threat, and that's all we know so far. I've tried to reach out to her lawyers, and I will continue to try to until I can find her and see if she wants to speak more about what happened. But as of this moment, that's what we know about Trump and Epstein, Trump's direct involvement with potentially raping young girls. Now, the other big point I want to make here, Donald Trump and Alexander Acosta. Alexander Acosta is Trump's current labor secretary, the U.S. Secretary of Labor right now, who's also the same attorney who helped get Epstein this non-prosecution agreement in Florida. And of course, in spring of 2017, Alexander Acosta was actually questioned about this by Congress. And of course, he denies that he played a major role. He said that he was under pressure, that he was the subject of a, quote, year-long assault on the prosecution and the prosecutors by an army of legal superstars who investigated him and his family, looking for any way to disqualify him. So he claims he was pressured. He was strong-armed into making this deal. I don't know. I do find it coincidental, interesting that Alexander Acosta helps cut this deal with Epstein, and then now he is rewarded by Trump, a friend of Epstein, who lives in the same area, who has his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach County, which is right near where Epstein's Palm Beach County house is, that he rewards Acosta with labor secretary. And now that Jeff Sessions, former attorney Jeff Sessions, is out, Mr. Acosta is being considered for the position of Attorney General of the United States, which would make him the most powerful attorney in the country. And if he did cut a deal with Epstein to help out Epstein and to help out Trump, then this seems like one hell of a reward. Now, the final thing I want to touch on here that was absolutely removed from the documentary, everything I just went over was just sort of a rehashing and kind of an expansion on what that information was about. And if you follow all these links, you're going to get all this information, but I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit more detail. But this piece right here that's in parentheses, if you go to the script here that you'll find on the Conscious Resistance website, and if you look at where I have, it might be a little blurry in the live version, but you can just go find the script yourself, and you can read this. But in this section, which we took out, this is what I'm going to read to you. It should also be noted that Joseph Recarey, the retired Palm Beach detective who led the investigation into Epstein, died suddenly in May 2018, so just a few months ago. He was just 50 years old, and the cause of death was reported only as a, quote, brief illness. And so think about that. He dies suddenly in May 2018. He's only 50 years old, and I looked everywhere for the obituaries, from the cops, from his family. Everything just described it as a brief illness. The Palm Beach Daily News reported that, quote, no other information about the cause of death was released. So you're telling me this is a decorated police officer who is only 50 years old, which is not very old at all. And I looked at this guy. He wasn't like some overweight fat dude who just waiting to die of a heart attack from one too many cheeseburgers. And he dies of a brief illness. And I'm trying to find his family in a very respectful, sensitive way and see if they're willing to talk about this. His sudden death is made all the more strange because of statements made by Michael Ryder, who's the former Palm Beach police chief who worked with Joseph Recarey on the investigation of Epstein. So we have two men. Joseph Recarey, he's a retired Palm Beach detective who's the lead investigator into Epstein, right? He's retired. He's working with another officer named Michael Ryder, who's also a former police chief, who worked with him, and they both were on the Epstein investigation. And in 2010, Michael Ryder gave an exclusive interview to the Daily Beast where he states that during an investigation, both him and Recarey became aware that they were under surveillance for several months by an unknown source. Ryder also previously stated that State Attorney Barry Krischer was hesitant to prosecute Epstein, causing Ryder to send a letter to Krischer complaining of the, quote, highly unusual conduct involved in the case. That State Attorney Krischer turned a blind eye to this case is made all the more disturbing when you recognize that he was also in charge of Florida's Crimes Against Children Unit, a position in which he would directly affect cases against individuals accused of crimes against kids. And the reason I bring that point up is because, so this cop, Michael Ryder, the former police chief, he complains that State Attorney Barry Krischer cuts a deal with Epstein and that it was highly unusual. And you look at that guy, State Attorney Barry Krischer, and well, he's also heading up the Florida Crimes Against Children's Unit. And this is one of the things that you find time and time again is that it's the wolf guard in the hen house. It's the people who are either maybe themselves directly involved in pedophilia, or at least they're the ones helping the pedophiles get away, are put into positions of power where they can directly affect, that type of crime and decide who gets charged and who gets to go. So I find this odd. I find this strange. Now, he's retired, right? So maybe he was not actively investigating Epstein anymore. We don't know. I'm trying to reach out to his family and find out. Talk to Mr. Michael Ryder and see, like, was he still investigating this? Because the thing is, Epstein went to prison in 2008 for 12 months. According to the law, the case is over, but Bradley Edwards and the women are still trying to fight for justice, so it's still ongoing right now. That means there's still an investigation in Epstein. That means that Michael Ryder, Joseph Vercari, although he was retired, he may have still been investigating Epstein to try to get more information for Bradley Edwards to use in a court of law. Now he is dead from a sudden illness as of May 2018, after spending years investigating Epstein and trying to bring him down. What does that mean? I don't know. Did Epstein kill him? I don't know. I need to reach out to his family. I'm in the process of doing that. I need to find that, and maybe they'll say no. He had some heart health and he died. And that's just what it is. Maybe they'll say it was very sudden. It was strange. He was saying he was worried. He was concerned about his health and his life. That's what a journalist is supposed to find out. That's what I'm going to find out. So although the Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein documentary is out, the research on this is not done yet, and we are continuing to look further into this topic. And I just want to give you guys a brief preview of what this next documentary is focusing on. I'll read you guys the last paragraph here. Unfortunately, Epstein is only one piece of this puzzle. It is impossible for him to carry out these acts alone. He works with a variety of people to feed his despicable habit. If the allegations are even partially true, then many powerful people are involved in pedophilia and potentially trafficking of human beings. In the next documentary, we will explore this network of individuals and groups who contribute to this dark side of humanity. So we're going to explore this network of individuals and groups who contribute to the trafficking of human beings and maybe even children. What does that mean? Who are the people behind these various groups? Who are a part of these networks? I don't know that yet. I don't have the full answer. But I'm telling you guys, let me just say this. I am not interested in killing myself. Some of you know I have a history of suicide attempts when I was younger. But as of today, as of November 2018, I have no interest in killing myself. I feel great about my life. I'm excited about investigating and bringing down people like Jeffrey Epstein and other criminals. I have no interest in killing myself. However, I am putting that out there because as I'm diving into this research, I have started to become a little bit more than paranoid about certain things that I don't want to say publicly. I am not just rehashing the information that is publicly available on Epstein. I am digging deep. I'm calling people. I'm calling ex-police officers. I'm calling lawyers. I'm talking to people. I'm making it known that I'm digging into this. People like Epstein don't want to be bothered. Sure, they can be billionaires. They can have their own pedo private islands. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how big you are, whether your name's Eminem or Jeffrey Epstein, people read comments online. They don't like negative information about them. You can ignore it to a certain point, but after a while, you want it to go away, even if you're Jeffrey Epstein. So I am not saying I'm currently under attack, but I am definitely not ignorant enough to think that as I push forward down this rabbit hole, that potential attacks couldn't come. So I just want to make that clear, as cheesy and silly as that may sound, just so it's on the public record right now, November 11, 2018, that Derek Bros has no interest in killing himself and does not intend to kill himself anytime in the coming future. With that said and done, let me show you what I'm working on now. Let me see if this will actually work. I'm going to go ahead and close one of my windows and see what appears for you guys. All right. Well, it doesn't look to be appearing to work. Let me see if I can open up a document. I'm trying to show you guys a document related to the next documentary. This will be the first place that we officially announce it. And in this coming week, I'm probably going to start doing a live investigation so you guys can see exactly what I'm looking at here and hopefully come to understand it better than you did before. And by the end of this month, in early December, when we release this documentary, then you will hopefully truly understand what we're dealing with. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like my screen program is showing you what I want to show you, so I'll just tell you guys for now. The next documentary is called Who Will Find What the Finders Hide, and it is related to a group called the Finders, a cult, as many people call them. And I don't want to give away too many details just yet until I can do a live video where you guys can actually see what I'm seeing. For some reason, it's not showing up. But let me tell you this. On Wednesday, February 4th, 1987, an anonymous caller called Tallahassee police on 2 well-dressed men with 6 kids who they said looked disheveled with potential signs of abuse. Police arrive and they question 2 men before taking the men and the children into custody. Authorities in Florida searched the van the men were with. They found 20 computer disks and a device that they said looked like was used to hook into a computer in another location by a telephone, which is essentially broadband internet. Thursday, February 5th, Tallahassee police contacted D.C. police Thursday in an attempt to establish the identities of the children. They learned that D.C. police had heard of the Finders group, according to the Tallahassee police spokesman. According to U.S. District Court records in Washington, a confidential police source had previously told authorities that the Finders were a cult that conducted brainwashing techniques at a warehouse in D.C. Friday, February 6th, D.C. Metro conducts a raid on 2 apartments in a warehouse connected to the group known as the Finders. Saturday, February 7th, the Washington Post reports officials describe cult rituals and child abuse case. Sunday, February 8th, the New York Times reports inquiry spreads on 6 children in cult. And Sunday, February 8th, also, Washington Post says ex-Finders tell of game's complex belief, which describes lots of details on the group, their origins, and their founder, Marion Petty. By Monday, February 9th, Finders members say group does not perform satanic rituals or abuse children, reports the Associated Press. And the interesting thing, though, is by Monday, February 9th, so within 6 days, because we're talking Wednesday, February 4th, and Monday, February 9th, the story is dropped. All of a sudden, it's changed. On Monday, the Washington Metro Police Department held a press conference to say it found no evidence of wrongdoing or satanic activity by the children, by the Finders. Health officials in Florida said they found no evidence of sexual abuse of the children. So all of a sudden, the story disappears. It goes from being major headlines across the country, talking about a potential satanic cult, child abuse, trafficking, saying that this group was found with computers, that this is in 1987, that they were using email, that they had high-tech computers. There was talk of connections to the CIA. I mean, this rabbit hole runs deep. And I have a timeline of all the events for the last 20 years. Anytime the Finders have been reported on or questioned or talked about, I've found every single report, every link, mainstream, independent, blog, interview, etc. And I've put together this puzzle piece. And it is an interesting, disturbing tale about how a group known as the Finders, who without a doubt was connected to at the least the CIA and Air Force intelligence, and potentially connected to pedophilia and the trafficking of children. And this is all documented fact and reported in government documents. And then all of a sudden the story disappears and you never hear about it again. This is the subject of our next documentary. It is called Who Will Find What the Finders Hide? It is a mini documentary that you are not going to want to miss. And that is all I'm going to say now. But please do stay tuned to our channel in the coming week as I start to break down my investigation on a day-to-day basis. And I'm also in the middle of writing the script for this so we can start editing and get it out by the end of this month. But I want to do live investigations with you guys for my own safety and just so you guys know what I'm working on. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it at for today. We've talked long enough, but thank you guys for listening. Again, please do bookmark theconsciousresistance.com. Please just go ahead and follow us on social media channels, BitChute, Steemit, MeWe, Minds, and of course, for the moment, Facebook and YouTube. And consider signing up at patreon.com/DerekBros, where you can support our efforts to bring you truthful, honest, well-researched journalism and many documentaries, because this is where I want to focus on. I think this is how I'm going to have the most effect waking people up. And as you can see, we've only got about $264 coming in per mini documentary. This money is not going in my pocket. It's going directly to pay our editor. So if you want to help pay our editor, I'd like to be able to pay him $500. He's worth a lot more per documentary, and you know, let's see if we can do that. But for now, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.